now, the last one of the day. Now we're going to zoom in on the character's bust, so sort of their chest or shoulders up, and draw some character expressions. So there's a whole bunch of different expressions you could probably think of. The usual ones: happy, sad, angry, surprised, upset, embarrassed, things like that. So the challenge with this next exercise is, not so much to think of, well, there's many challenges of this next exercise, but you want to try to keep the face and body angle different in different poses. So you're not always just going to be doing a static character from the front. You want to show them the expressing their emotions. You want to show their expression of their emotions from different angles and views, depending on what's happening. So you could try both a range of, the 3/4 view of the face, the front of the face, the side of the face, and you could even try a back 3/4 view, which is kind of like that. As well as that, you also want to move the camera around. So the camera being, imagining what you're drawing is the camera's view of the character. So move the camera up here. So you might see a high angle view of that character face and also a low angle view. But you don't want to do that arbitrarily. You want to kind of choose those high and low and medium angles depending on what pose we're seeing. So for example, seeing a low angle pose of someone like with an angry face can look really dominating, especially if it's like your villain, your wolf character. So ideally you want to use those strategically, but try to fill a page of different facial expressions. So think about how their mouth is going to be moving, how their nose might be moving, their eyes, their ears, hair, any kind of jewelry. Everything is going to be affecting their expression, their emotion somehow. One useful thing for this exercise is to get a mirror so that you can kind of express using your own face and look in the mirror and kind of look at how your face contorts and the kind of angles and lines that you see, so that you can try to simplify those onto your character face. I remember when I was in animation at Sheridan, I would look down occasionally at a friend who was at a few desks over from me, and he would be making all these facial expressions, and without seeing the mirror, it was a really funny sight. He would just be, contorting his face in all these different ways. So ideally, you're alone, and you can feel free to kind of unleash on how you're acting and making your face express a certain emotion. So think of a wide range of emotions. So not necessarily just neutral and angry, but the various levels of anger and the different kinds of anger, like a confused anger versus like an overt rage. There's going to be a lot of different diversity in those different expressions. And you can occasionally use props. You can use hands if you need to, but mostly this is about the face and making your character express themselves. One of the biggest challenges is to kind of push the face and contort the proportions and caricature it like a cartoon, but not break the character or going off model, as I mentioned before, which is when the character no longer looks like the character anymore. So that's a big challenge for many cartoonists, to kind of draw the character from a range of different angles, views, and with different expressions, and still make it look like the same character. It's a lot to ask, but this is what we're going to be doing for this exercise until the end of this class. So I'm going to do a demonstration first. Okay. So in this next exercise, we're going to start to do some facial expressions. I love this exercise because you really start to see your character come alive. Ideally, if they're expressing themselves accurately in the kind of identifiable way. So just like the previous exercise, I'm going to start first with a rough sketch. And the nice thing about just working with the head is that you're kind of just, depending on your character, you kind of just have to rotate the head around to different views. So I might do one like this. Just trying to think about where the neck is and where the body is. I'm going to give myself a challenge here and do kind of like a looking over my shoulder kind of look. So his face is going to be pointing this way. That's what this line is indicating. His eyes are going to be around here. So again, I'm always drawing around, as if I'm drawing around in a circle. And then his mouth is going to be down here. Nose is going to be somewhere around here. Ear is going to be somewhere back here. So that's how we know where the jaw is too. Yeah, on a typical human, basically, the ear is right where the jaw comes down, and the bottom of the nose is typically the bottom of the ear. So that's kind of a nice basic thing to have in mind. It's just that the ear is helpful for that. It can kind of give you the jaw. Actually, where should the arm be facing? Maybe kind of towards the camera. So the thumb's going to be on the other side of the hand. So you can either see it there. That looks a bit weird to me, so I'll probably have it stick out a little bit on this side. So although I don't need any more than this, as I mentioned in the previous little walkthrough, you don't need to see the hands or much more than the shoulders and the face. But, you know, it can help. It can help, and really not much more than this. All we need is really the face for the expression. In fact, to champion that, I'm going to make it a little bigger. Okay, so now let's try to place these features on. So his nose really juts out. You can kind of see his nose really moves out. So I got to make sure that's consistent. So we're also having a bit of a different angle here in that, you know, we're going to see a lot of the top of his head. And so he's kind of looking back over his shoulder. He's going to have basically a shocked expression, like, whoa, what was that noise? Something like that. So let's see. So since the mouth, since we're seeing, you know, the chin, I'm going to try to get that in first. Chin's going to be kind of coming down like this. Just going to free up some space here. There we go. That's approximately what we're going for here. So this eye is going to be the difficult thing because it's going to be foreshortened because we're mostly seeing this side of the face. So this side's going to be much easier than this side over here. So let's maybe get that nose in to help separate the face in two here. So we might do something like this. Let's see. Or it could break the silhouette. It could come out here. Let's try that. That might actually be fun. Then it gives us less room for the mouth, so we got to be careful. But it is going to be foreshortened because again, we're seeing mostly up here, and then everything else down here is going to be a little smaller. But there's a lot of different ways to draw mouths. Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see the cheek. So I'm going to draw the teeth. Here, I'm just going to make a bunch of lines and then I'm going to explain them after. It's always a good thing to hear, eh, from a character designer. Here's a bunch of lines, and then just do that. It's just much easier to draw than to draw and talk sometimes. Okay, so let's have a look at this without the silhouette. So this is kind of, so this top is obviously the lips, but you often don't see the lips, especially on my character. So I'm just kind of having a little ridge here. And then the teeth, there's some teeth coming out beneath here, right there. And then we're seeing the bottom of the mouth over here, but it has to wrap around, right? And you might see a bottom, often, if anything, you'll see a little bottom of the lip. My character has very subtle lips. You can't even see it from that first pose that I did. So as we can see, that doesn't really work to have the chin. We kind of need a little more space. We just need a bit more. That's why sometimes it's easier to draw the mouth first and then to figure out where the chin is in relation to it. And I think this nose is actually too big. It doesn't really work to have it kind of jet out like that. Ah, we're getting a tangent. See, I had all these points converging on one, so it's better just to have to make that overlap, either overlap or break the silhouette, or to have one happen before the other. It's just a little bit more clear in the drawing. Okay, so now there. So now let's get this eye first, because this is going to be the hard one. So remember that from this angle. So from this angle, the eyes look relatively straight, but in this pose, it's going to be kind of wrapping around because now the head's tilted downwards. So let's try to do something like this. So on this eye line now, let's have. So I'm looking at this distance from the. I'm always measuring one thing to another. So there's that nose there, so I'm kind of looking at that distance. It's not too much distance. There's enough. So this eye is going to be bigger because we're seeing this in the foreground. And then this eye, it's going to be kind of a compressed version of that other eye. Let's have a look at this. I want some space there. I don't like situations where the eye just goes right to the edge, because then it flattens that eye so much. It doesn't look three-dimensional, because it'll never really quite reach that edge. It might be very close, but there'll always be a little bit of space, or at least the feeling that the eye is round. And it's hard to get that when it's just kind of globbed onto the side like that. That kind of just breaks the form down a lot. Okay. So, and then I want really to push these eyeballs here. And let's make some surprise. So with eyes, I could talk forever about eyes, but basically with an eye, the minute that you have a lot of white space around the eye, it brings an intensity to the eye. Actually, even more so without that iris. So that, you see, it looks really intense as a simple drawing just like that. Even with the iris, there's plenty of white space around the eye. Even if you make some above it, makes them look even more intense. It also looks like there's an underlid here, which brings intensity. Whereas the minute that I add a bit of an eyelid, do you see how the intensity goes down a lot? It looks a lot more relaxed or tired or old. So yeah, just make sure that the white of the eye is representative of the mood of your character. So this one's really intense, obviously. So now I want to place the eyebrows. Let's try. Maybe something like this. So they're different. I have asymmetry in my face, which is kind of nice, right? This side, often one side of the face says something different than the other side. So this side says, it's more concerned. This side is more worried. So interesting how we can change each side of the face to communicate sort of different things a little bit. So here, now I can figure out the rest of the mechanics. So the rest is all mechanical issues here. So this can be drawn in fairly easy. So this chin feels a little more solid than this one. I might give this one a little extra roundness. It's not so straight. And not such a strong jaw there. So see how I've softened that up a lot. The ear is a lot smaller in the previous drawing, and it's probably a little further back. So, but mostly the hat is covering it. I'm gonna bring this neck just angled slightly differently. So this head, make sure there's always enough volume on the back of the head. That's a very common issue. It's not just kind of like front of the face and then back of the neck, and here's the ear. There's a whole other piece, usually back here. Obviously we don't need to have realistic looking cartoons, but it should be representative of the human counterparts that we're drawing inspiration from. Okay, so now I'm drawing this hat across here, just over here. I'm looking at the ear, how it intersects that. It's gonna be much larger on here. So even the hat needs to feel like it's wrapping around this form. As always, you can draw with me here. You don't have to wait for me to get you started on this emotion exercise. And then I might use some of this hair as a great opportunity to break this silhouette a little bit over here. Great. Maybe there's even some hair over there. So there we go. So that it looks on model to this character. There might be a few things I might fix up. Like this actual spacing of this eye looks a little bit wrong to me. I might change that around a little bit. And then even the angle, I might just... Yeah, that looks a little better, I think. I just need to make sure, so that the eye direction has changed a bit, so this one needs to be more facing that way now. All right, so, but yeah, as I think about each expression, so I had an emotion in mind for this one. It was kind of like shock, surprise. But think about yours and all the different angles. You want to do some that are like almost from a side view. Like maybe I'll see a little bit of this eye, very compressed, and then this eye will be almost more, you won't see the whole like that. You might just see that part of the eye here. You know, something like that. So this is kind of more of a side view, but maybe I'll still see a little smidgen of this eye over here, like that. There, that's almost a similar kind of expression to this one. And then, you know, you're going to be dealing with a lot of different mouths depending on the angle of the face. So, you know, maybe this one's happy. Let's do a happy one. So the smile is going to be coming up. So this cheek muscle that also we can see a little of right there, it connects all up through this area. So that's that cheek muscle basically. So it kind of connects to the nose. So, but you don't want to see that because it's going to add a lot of age to the character. So instead we might just have a little line like that. So if you think of this line in its complete form, doing that kind of thing, so that, obviously that adds age. So to reduce it, we just kind of start to erase some of it. We fade out areas of the line like that. And that way our mind still makes that connection, but we don't need to draw that line in, and it makes that edge a lot softer. So that's a way of making an edge softer without really having to, you know, actually shade or do anything like that. So now we're going to be really changing the silhouette here. Lower lip. Going around there. So there I've done a different thing with the face where we actually see this lip change. It's not just going to be, you know, flat like this and then like that. Sometimes the mouth is inside the silhouette, but sometimes you see more detail of that silhouette there. So that be aware of that if you're doing views where you might see the mouth. And then if you're doing views that are kind of showing your character look upwards, make sure that there's going to be some indication of their chin. It's kind of like, these are tough ones. If you want to try a challenge, do a pose looking up. So all the features are going to be squished kind of over here. They're always tough. They're always tough. It differs from character to character. But it might be something like that. And then we'll see even the back of his head, maybe some of his hair on both sides. So that's kind of a version of looking up. I find looking down is a little bit easier, but it's still tough in its own way. So if this is the top of the head, you know, this is the eye line. Actually, that's too dramatic. We're not going to really see much of anything. But see this, we're going to see the eyes. And then the nose will often break the silhouette from looking at the top view. And then, yeah, I'll probably need a little extra room for that chin. But something like that. You might even see this other ear over here. I'm going to give him more volume back there. So yeah, regardless of what angle you choose, you can make it work. It just means that depending on your character, you're going to have to really remodel things a lot. And constantly look back and forth to make sure that everything looks like it's on model. That's a common thing to to mess up. So let's try some character emotions. And, well, you probably started already, so let's continue character emotions.